I was on Slack and was it this morning? Yesterday. This morning. Somebody asked, it was yesterday, what is the point of an NFT? What is the point of this crypto? And it reminds me a little bit of a conversation a couple years ago. What is the point of the cloud? Why is everybody moving to Amazon? Why are we stopping to run our own servers? And then, even back before, why are they moving to Java? Like, we're doing things in C and CGI. And I think there's something happens to us as we go through this technology. There's new thing after new thing after new thing. And they fail, and then they fail, and then they fail. And once in a while, nothing works until it's all. I think that, are you looking at the camera? I can't, no, I'm walking around, I move my face, I can't stand still. So,
we have some space, just like from around the orange couch over to the front.
Packaged it with their own curriculum. I ran the curriculum team, ran the software team. One time we were 6 employees. We were big and small and big. But we were down to 6 employees and we wrote this code. And last year, just about a year ago, I joined a company that was going to build a live streaming platform for Broadway shows. And we had success. We did some theaters, we did Broadway shows, we did regional shows. It was pretty cool. I kind of built this whole platform myself, and then I brought in my friend Zach to kind of finish things up in the front end. And Zach and I were in a 1-2 team, and it was pretty cool. However, the CEO lost a little bit of interest because all she was doing was talking to unions, lawyers, creative people who wanted things a certain way based on the stage. They didn't understand the dynamics of streaming, lighting people, and we kind of had to buy our way into the market. And so here we were not having any fun because there's so many barriers. So the CEO said, okay, well, I went down for a board meeting February 2nd, my birthday this year. And she said, I think instead of doing Broadway live streaming, we're going to do NFTs. And, I'm like, hey, whatever. I'm game. Let's learn something new, let's pull some NFTs. And so we did some NFTs, we built a platform, learning about Web3. And thinking about this calendar and how the challenge right here we're having, figuring out how to manage this data. This person's not in the room, this person's not in the room, how do we get this on there, how do we get it on there? Just got me thinking a little bit after I saw the question about NFTs and value of crypto. And I think if you put the NFTs away, you put all the coins away, you kind of think about what's really going on in the core of the blockchain, and think beyond where we are today and where this might head off in the future. There's some interesting things. So I thought together we could design a distributed system, do a little thought experiment. I love thinking about, what if we used Rust? What if we used microservices? What if we did not use microservices? And going through all these different thought patterns as I'm designing the system, designing the team, whatever. And I sometimes I go through just staring on the rowing machine, or I'm walking the dog and I shouldn't be working. But anyway, what if we wanted to think about how to manage this data in a different way? So first of all, why do we want to give all of our data to Google? Simple solution is to create a Google Calendar. Why do we want Google to control what we're doing? Why do we want to have Google see all of our data and manage that? We're technologists. We should be able to create something on our own.
Put that on Lucid.
But this guy right here, he's going to run this web service that we're going to build together on his laptop. And I know he has bad Wi-Fi, and I don't trust him to keep this system up and running. And I don't know if I really trust this guy over here, and that guy in the back is my brother. And I think if someone came in and gave him a $20 bill, he would go change the dates on his calendar to make a meetup. I would. So,
What's the price of a good joke?
so anyway, we have zero trust system. Nobody trusts each other. However, we want to be able to come together and reach consensus on what the dates of each meetup are. And so, in that system, we need a protocol. How do we know that if someone requests a meetup, that gets registered by multiple people running multiple servers so they can check their data? And that's really where the blockchain comes in. And so Luke has a private key, and he's going to use that private key to sign a transaction, and he's going to throw it in the bowl. Whoever wants to process that transaction goes and grabs it, pulls it into their system, and here's the thing. If Luke wants that transaction to be processed, he has to throw some money in the bowl with it. The person that processes that transaction gets money that is put in crypto. When you start thinking about how that works on a little bit different scale, maybe we get Joel to sponsor all of this. Joel's going to take $1,000 and say he's going to sponsor meetings. Luke wants to put something on the calendar. We don't trust him. All right, Luke, you put $1 in, you put your event on the calendar. If you get 5 people to show up, you get your $1 back. If you get 10 people to show up, you get $2. And so when you start thinking about this distributed system, someone's funding it and putting money in for a better cause, because Joel believes in this, and then we want to hand out rewards so that people running the data, running the nodes, processing the transactions, and we also want to give incentives out to the people who are actually participating by putting their meetings up here and running the meetings. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. I made a lot of this up as I'm going, based on kind of what's already in my head. And don't have slides, didn't play anything. So out of it. I'm sorry. Can't stand still. My coworker is now my dog, and she doesn't care. When I worked in the office, I think Miranda was an intern for me for a couple of years, and I don't sit still and I hit the keyboard really hard. She does that. So when we think about Web3, where it might go, zero trust environment, we have some kind of sponsor who wants to create an environment to make something happen, and they're willing to get money to fund it. We have individuals who have to pay to have their transactions run, but maybe that sponsor helps them out by getting their money back. So you can't just spam every day of the month, you run out of money, and you won't get your money back. But if you have a good meetup that's solid, that meets the goal of the sponsor, he's willing to give you some of his stake out. So just a little summary of Web3 and some things that might turn into, I would love to build this, maybe I'll build this for next time.
How do NFTs fit into this?
NFTs?
I thought that was the, I wanted to hear about NFTs.
All right, NFTs.
Well, I think in this story, the NFT would be the claim to a calendar date.
Oh, yeah, you have the calendar date.
Yeah. And the blockchain would be the transactions of moving the NFTs around.
So I was shocked with NFTs when I learned that there was no digital signature of the actual art being recorded on the blockchain to represent. It just blew my mind. I'm like, well, all right. So
It
it's
just points to a link that goes to the image, and that link is susceptible to link rot.
Yes.
Or like the image being changed or something.
Yeah.
So like people are spending thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on a link to a picture, and that picture could be changed, or like rug pulls are very common. All of the NFT makers just get people to sign up for it and get them to send them money, and then they immediately just run away with all of it.
Well, I have my theories, but I didn't want to bring down your
So we also sold $800,000 worth of NFTs with this since we started this project. And as a company, I told someone else that, they're like, man, how come you're still working?
Now, are you free to say what those NFTs are, what the tokens
I can
are?
tell you anything, yeah, I can show him, he's got some. I have one. So, this is probably a whole nother talk, what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're gonna build a business around this. But essentially, we wanna build around this NFT, we wanna like elevate ourselves above an NFT project. We wanna become the Yelp, the Rotten Tomatoes, the Google of NFTs. And so you come to us, you find the art, the projects, the missions, the things you want to support, and then you can purchase things. So that's what we're building. So here's my NFT, if anybody wants to see. That's around.
So in your case, the NFTs are artwork?
Our NFT project, so what we did was.
It's just a visualization of the pictures.
How do I know that you own that NFT?
What's it?
How do I know you own that
I
NFT?
gave
Well, he knows it.
Yeah, but how do I trust him and you?
His platform
Well,
manages.
there's zero.
Yes, either side. Yeah. So the cool thing about this is if you ignore the picture, there's a transaction recorded on the blockchain that says his wallet address owns token number 3,242 of this NFT collection. And theoretically, that can never be changed because there's so many distributed nodes that all have that data, and it's really hard computationally to change that on all those.
Now, in that token, is there a URL that points to the actual picture, or is the actual picture in the token in this case?
So the data storage on the blockchain is very expensive, and so you don't take a picture and store the picture on the blockchain, you store the picture on a URL. And then on the blockchain, all that goes in there is the address of the smart contract that generated the NFT, the token number, and who owns it.
Yeah.
And that's all that gets really tracked on chain. And then smart contract has a function that says, give me the URL, the base URL, and then it's / token ID is how we did it. But you can change that. I can change it.
You can
It's
change,
not permanent.
you can change the smart contract even though that's written on the blockchain?
So the smart contract is code that you put on the blockchain with an interface that you define. If I add a function to my smart contract that says set the base URL to X, it has a function that sets the base URL to X. If I don't put that function on there, there's no way to do it. So you write arbitrary code, you put it on the blockchain, it goes out on all those nodes, and when I run a transaction from that code, all the nodes run it and it can verify. There's no randomness. I can't have a random number inside of my smart contract because it needs to execute that same transaction across any different nodes in a computationally deterministic manner.
So it's checksumming? Are the nodes checksumming
Each other?
the smart contract?
Yes, essentially.
Because that's why it can't be random, right? Because if it's a random value, it wouldn't match. Or it wouldn't.
Yes, if you ran it and you ran it and it had a random number in it, it would come up with two different values, and now your two different nodes can't verify that they have the same transaction. Yeah.
Is it that the blockchain is persisting metadata associated with the entity of value, or whether it's an NFT or
So
is that generally true? Like by saying we're not, I'm trying to put together, we were not encoding the asset, not.
Might you consider it more like a tiny URL? References to the image that I might download to represent it.
So first of all, you can put any code you want on the blockchain. And if you happen to do things the right way, the NFT marketplaces will work with your contract. I can create up I can just make up my own stuff in my own NFT, and it doesn't work for anybody else, but it still tracks ownership of the token. So you can do whatever you want. But if you want to be able to play with other marketplaces and other tools, you kind of have to follow those rules. Interesting thing is there's no standards body. So it's all kind of by convention, the bigger players come together and say, here's the rules, and if you want to follow them, great. If not, your NFT may not be sellable.
So just to clarify, in the case of your NFT and virtually all other NFTs, the blockchain means Ethereum?
Ours is Ethereum. I think there's a growing, I don't know if it's growing. I've been doing NFTs for 3 months and I'm now an expert. There are other blockchains, 100% that support NFTs. Any blockchain that, so Bitcoin, you can't really put code on Bitcoin and run a smart contract. It's not really a smart contract. It's code that you bundle and you put on the blockchain. It stores the code on the blockchain and it executes that code in a virtual machine on the blockchain nodes. Bitcoin doesn't have that. All that has is transactions. It doesn't have smart contracts that can execute. So Bitcoin, you can't have an NFT. Ethereum,
Right.
yes. It's just,
But you could have an NFT, you couldn't have a smart contract submitted to it.
yes, yes.
Is the smart contract what would allow you to move ownership of whatever that thing of value is, NFT, from one person to another?
Yeah, feel free
Do
to.
you want to see the smart contract?
I think
codes?
if you start with the pad pen, if you like drag the pad, it should be the active page.
Yeah, I might need another beer if we're going to show
Yeah.
smart contract. Maybe we'll do that another time.
I mean, we're pretty much at the end of the time, but I don't care as long as other people.
So I have more of an abstract question that is philosophical. So if we want to go that route.
Yes, that's what I want to hear.
Okay, because it is like, so my understanding of blockchain and the associated social values that require it to operate are more libertarian in nature, and they align more with free market economics. So in free association of individuals with carefully defined financial incentives to build things, to create culture, and then furthermore, it's decentralized. Whereas if we talk about the social philosophy of the current Unix, HTTP standard body era, it's classically liberal in the sense of we're not going to charge royalties for the HTTP protocol or any protocol. We're going to define them. The vision of the the commons, right? We're building something we're not charging, but some would offer that sledge environment where you have highly consolidated economic interests, like Google, Facebook, Amazon, or other private entities that essentially are exploiting perhaps the free common nature. So, I guess, are those like random summaries? Is it fair to portray like one of the core social values of blockchain as more libertarian or maybe we toss that out and say free market individuals trying to align incentives with the creators better? Like is that a fair portrayal of kind of the economics?
First of all, thank you for asking this question because I love thinking about things from the big picture and the big perspective. Before we came, Joel said, well, what is Web3? What does it mean? It's just, so Web 1 is anybody can put up a website on their computer and you can go access each other's website. And this university, we talked about that university, is static content. And then Web 2 is kind of that centralized control. And so now, instead of creating a website, did you not give me a beer? I don't got me a beer.
They're just waiting to see what they'll say.
Yeah, so Web 2 is that centralized control. So
Yeah.
Amazon owns all the servers.
Yeah.
Facebook owns this, and Google has this, and all, and then the Web3 is, and this is where I think where that libertarian concepts come in, and there is a connection there. Okay, I am in control of my own digital assets.
Yeah.
And I can choose when I want to sell it, to sell them to him. And it is a individual responsibility over your own assets.
Yeah.
This is interesting. For some reason, these company working for hired a lawyer before we did our NFT project. Right? Right? Because if you do, you can get in trouble for sanctions. And you're not supposed to, as you as an individual shouldn't sell anything to Russia. There's no way we can block that from happening on the blockchain. Because the blockchain is all about that freedom and personal responsibility. And lack of oversight from a bigger organization. So if you just think about that for a minute, that's a really interesting thing. You can't sell an NFT to someone in Iran because we have sanctions for somebody in Russia. They wanted to. Okay, I want you blockchain people to stop letting the Russians take the money out of Russia, the Bitcoin out of Russia, and send it somewhere else. Good luck. The whole system is zero trust, no oversight. And I think because of that, there's definitely not political alignment, libertarian, kind of that mindset of individual liberties, and nobody's going to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I find that also like clarifies like a certain philosophical dilemma that how do you have, I mean, this is, I guess this is where this is not new software, right? I mean, the Free Software Foundation, and the whole notion that one can be prosecuted for the creation of an abstract thing, which isn't really a thing, but does something, like with the cryptography and exporting and all that. But what I find interesting, like probably you're describing like what the company did hiring a lawyer to actually work through that is a thoroughly centralized entity. The United States, federal government has claimed to action of free citizen, and I mean it's funny because it's like, yeah, we're not arguing that it's an economic endeavor, but it sounds like political meaning is not encoded in NFTs or in blockchains.
I think that's not exactly it. And these traditional entities, borders, companies, and things like that are not encoded. And so again, I want my transactions wrong. I have transactions. My transaction is to take $10 of Bitcoin and send it to my brother.
Yeah.
Now, you can't stop me from doing that. As long as I put in my $10, I put in an extra dollar for the transaction fee, which the network takes as their profit from nodes, that transaction will go through.
Yeah.
Government can't stop it. Can't be stopped unless you're blocking something, filtering the packets.
Yeah.
So I feel like some of the intention behind Bitcoin, all these other blockchains and stuff, is really to smash some of those restrictions. And to let people just do whatever they want, regardless of boundaries, of geographical or political boundaries.
And that's where the libertarian concepts come in.
I think it's even a step beyond that. I think the way we care about libertarian, I think we just want to smash it all. I don't know.
You can
But the
easily
problem
see
is, though,
the good side of this, but there's also very few unfairness.
Oh, there's already,
Oh, yeah.
like, there's so much of the blockchain and all of, like, especially with the NFT space, a lot of the social stuff is scams, and that's what I've been following with NFT stuff. 'cause
if I
think
had
that's
$1 million,
And that's why we're building a Yelp review site where it can tell people where to buy the
I'd buy an NFT for myself.
Oh yeah, there was when the NFT craze started, it was started because of the Beeple sale, which sold a bunch of Beeple artworks. And it was one guy who was going around and buying a bunch of these NFTs that people were making to boost up his own coin. And so a lot of these NFTs, they'll mint the NFTs and they'll just buy them themselves to get the coin, to get the price to go up. And then they'll give them to other people. And there's a lot of scams in the crypto and NFT communities.
It's labeled as art. So if you buy an NFT at a high price and you can sell it to yourself at a low price, keep the asset, take the tax write-off. Right. Without actually losing value. And right now in the US, that is legal.
I don't think that's
It's
legal.
not mistaken. Well,
It's not legal with our.
that's what the venture capitalists at the meeting in February said, we do all these things, we do all these things. Now,
I'm fairly certain that would be
I don't-
exhibition or fraud if put up to a lawyer.
well, something about
Well, I think there's probably something in there about self-dealing if they can prove it.
It's main goal.
It could be many things. It could be a really cool system for us all to collaborate and build a distributed calendar so that we can all contribute and create meetups and fund the meetups. And it could be money laundering or selling things to break sanctions right away.
You can make a one-time gift to your spouse of what, a certain number of money that's tax-free. There's all sorts of loopholes.
Ultimately, for me, NFTs don't really hold my interest aside from the potential future where that URL could be something other than a GIF or a JPEG. If it could start being a zip file or an application with that URL, it should be able to link to whatever you want to link to.
Well, there's games, there's
So
NFT.
what we're doing is, Web3 on itself is not really sufficient. So you see these Web2 entities coming in and kind of add a layer of control. So Coinbase. Coinbase is a Web2 company. I go to the website, I use my credit card, I buy it, it goes into their database. They hold my tokens. I don't actually own those tokens on the blockchain until I transfer them out of Coinbase. So Web2 entity. What we're doing with our NFT is, if you want to go onto our website and you want to participate in these Yelp reviews, and you want to learn about NFTs, you have to have one of our NFTs. So instead of logging in with your username and password, you log in with your wallet address. We get a digital signature of your wallet address to prove your identity, and then we go on the blockchain to verify that this is on your NFT. And if you don't have your NFT, we're kicking you out. And if you do have the NFT that you bought, then we're going to let you. But there's the website is 100%, it's Node, it's React, it's a web, it's a brand new website, it's like a build. It just has those hooks.
Crypto coins vaguely hold my interest. What really holds my interest is the underlying technology of distributed blockchain. That
But think about NFT.
potentially massive future.
I agree.
And I, like 5 years ago, I was at a FedEx store, and I was returning some computer power supply I got off Newway or something. And the sales guy there, manning the cash register, he stopped me for a second. It was kind of like, late in the shift. He's like, let me ask you something. I was like, okay. He's like, I'm a bit of a PC gamer. Why is there such this shortage of video cards right now? And so I'd been up for about 48 hours straight, so I was like, all right, let's throw down. and so I started breaking it down. So, okay, so these guys are mining for crypto with these extremely high-powered video cards, and they're calculating these cryptographic functions upon prime numbers. We get down to this, ultimately, this unique digital asset that is a transaction that it puts on the blockchain. And I'm standing there in the FedEx store, and I spontaneously go onto the sidebar of shipping companies. Their whole business, aside from the actual physical transportation of their goods,
everything on the servers is transaction, transaction, transaction. It's all about the GPS coordinates of their particular thing and its food chain. And I'm there going, there's no reason why this couldn't be decentralized. And think about the ramifications of that. I mean, they have all these people throughout the United States, throughout the world. They're opening up their mobile devices, gotta log into the servers, and I saw the application for distributed blockchain in shipping, and I think it could be a huge thing. If they're not exploring it already, it better be.
I think IBM is a big whole department on just that supply chain management and blockchain. So there's definitely,
They have to think of that.
yeah,
And that was 5 years ago, so.
it's kind of interesting. I mean, NFTs are like a Beanie Baby or Pokemon card. I'm not going to argue that because, I mean, they are. Some people love Beanie Babies and love Pokemon cards. And, you know, good for them. There's going to be artists supplying them and there's going to be people buying them. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have any interest in NFTs themselves. I like building platforms, engaging users, and building companies and all of that. But I don't know if I care what it is as long as it's not too bad. So do you know what Bitcoin mining actually is? I'm sure you guys know that.
Processing power.
So,
Cracking code, right? Make a little puzzle.
so normally you take data, and you hash it, and you come out with a signature, right? So the way Bitcoin works is you start with a signature, and you need to come up with a set of data that hashes down to that signature. And that's what mining is. And it's very hard to reverse engineer a hash. And it's kind of cool because so here's your signature, and then they put a mask on it, a bit mask. And that controls the difficulty. So if they want to make Bitcoins harder, they remove a bit from the mask. Now the problem, you have to only find the last 8 bits of the signature. To make it easier, you only have to find the next 6 bits. And that's how, no matter what the technology is, they maintain a new block every 10 minutes on Bitcoin. Because they mess with that. The number of bits of the digital signature you need to use to map it. Anyway, you hash data, you hash data, you look for other data that matches the signature, and then that becomes a block. And then they look at the next block. What they do is they take a hash of the first block, put it in the next block. Hash of this block, put it in the next. And that way you can't go back and change one in the middle without disrupting the whole calculation of hashes.
So is it fair to say it's a link to this,
Yeah, absolutely.
from my limited understanding? Just like the data structure, right, that has each point connected to the other, and then you can do things because they're connected. But also you could say it's a graph, right? It's
Yeah, that's like this. And sometimes weird things happen, like maybe he finds a solution and you find a solution at the same time, creates a fork. And now 2 of those nodes are right. And I can be wrong about that.
Different source.
Now, because now temporarily there's 2 blocks that both have different transactions accepted. And then they have a consensus algorithm that says whichever one of those chains gets the next block first wins, and then the transactions get canceled. So there's all kinds of really cool algorithms around how they create that consensus between all these different nodes. I would like to learn more about that.
It's all algorithms, it's all mathematics with really large integers, so it's just challenging to do unless you've got dedicated hardware designed to like graphics processors.
Unless you have
The punchline to my story is, so apparently I blew the poor sales guy's mind and walked out. And the very next day, my LinkedIn app bleeps and I check it and it's like, you've had a new visitor to your profile. some poor schmuck who works for FedEx in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I was just like, okay, well, I guess I deserve that.
All right, well,
That doesn't mean everyone else.
Do a training course or presentation, if you know, maybe some of the things.
I think here's a good place to end it. Don't really want to squash the conversation, but my battery's dying, so that's what I'll call it officially, and we can keep talking. So, see you next time.
Thanks.
So that's a really interesting question.